He slid her resume across the table like it was proof of divine intervention. "She's our new senior strategy lead," the CEO announced. I blinked at the document, my fingers tightening on my pen. The woman, Clara Vale, smiled at me with the ease of someone who'd already won. 20 minutes earlier, she'd been in the break room asking me how to log into our CRM. Now she was supposedly here to streamline my department. No discussion, no warning. I'd been in this role 8 years, built every system from scratch, but apparently my credentials weren't as fresh as hers. I didn't say a word. Not when the CEO called me reliable but too operational. Not when Clara sat in my chair during the break. I just took the meeting notes, like always, while they toasted to new perspectives. The first red flag was her email signature, MBA Harvard Business School. She spelled Harvard wrong in her first internal memo. I didn't react. My team noticed, whispered about it, but I shut them down. The second flag was the financial model she sent me to review. It was lifted word for word from a public startup pitch deck online. I knew because I'd used the same template years ago. She was careful, though. Anytime she presented, she used just enough buzzwords to sound informed, then pivoted to me for technical details. The CEO started skipping my updates in favor of hers. It was a slow erasure, and she was winning. I started a folder on my desktop called Veil Verification. I didn't tell anyone, not even my closest analyst. Revenge isn't a sprint. It's a series of quiet, deliberate steps. Her confidence grew faster than her competence. She booked herself as a keynote speaker at an industry conference, my conference. I'd been invited for years, but suddenly my slot was gone, consolidated into hers. She used slides I'd built, stripped of any source attribution. The CEO stood in the front row beaming. The board started mentioning her name in emails instead of mine. She parroted my work so closely it felt like hearing my own voice coming from someone else's mouth. The only thing she didn't copy was accuracy. Numbers didn't reconcile. Dates shifted. She blamed data migration and smiled through it. I started pulling archived server logs, credential verification databases, and open records requests. You can fake a resume. You can't fake the paper trail that disproves. I learned she'd never finished her undergraduate degree, let alone Harvard. Her LinkedIn showed an employment gap she claimed was consulting work. Public court records showed it was probation, embezzlement. A small firm in Chicago 5 years ago. She'd quietly changed her name afterward. The certificates she waved around in meetings, PDF edits, so sloppy, one still had someone else's name in the metadata. My hands shook as I compiled it all, not from fear, from restraint. This was enough to destroy her instantly, but instantly wasn't the point. She had taken my role, my credibility, and the years I spent building both. She was going to lose them in the exact slow, humiliating way she'd taken them. Her keynote was streamed online. Half her insights were plagiarized from obscure blogs. She even used a case study that was later disproven in a peer-reviewed journal. I knew because I debunked it myself last year. The live chat was polite but skeptical. She didn't notice. She was high on applause and post-panel handshakes. That night, I finalized a 42-page dossier, Veil, credential discrepancies and professional misconduct. Every source cited, every document linked. I encrypted it with a single password, the CEO's favorite golf course, and saved 3 copies, one for HR, one for the board, one for the conference organizers. Not yet sent. Timing was everything. The morning she returned, she walked into the office carrying a bouquet. From the conference chair, she bragged. The CEO had already scheduled a board meeting for Friday to formally expand her role. I confirmed attendance, smiled, and spent the week quietly meeting with my old contacts, the ones Clara thought she'd stolen. They remembered me. They'd noticed her mistakes. One even forwarded me an email where she'd signed my name by accident. Friday came. I took my usual seat at the end of the table, laptop open, calm as a still pond.
The morning she returned, she walked into the office carrying a bouquet. "From the conference chair," she bragged. The CEO had already scheduled a board meeting for Friday to formally expand her role. I confirmed attendance, smiled, and spent the week quietly meeting with my old contacts, the ones Clara thought she'd stolen. They remembered me. They'd noticed her mistakes. One even forwarded me an email where she'd signed my name by accident. Friday came. I took my usual seat at the end of the table, laptop open, calm as a still pond. The CEO launched into his pitch about Clara's impact. She smiled at the board like royalty greeting peasants. When he finished, I asked one question. "Has anyone here verified Clara Vale's credentials?" Silence. Then polite laughter, like I'd made a joke. I turned my laptop to face them and opened the dossier. 42 pages of documented fraud lit the screen. Her face went pale. The CEO stammered something about HR protocols. I slid a printed copy across the table to the board chair. "You'll find this also covers the falsified case studies presented under our name last week. The conference organizers have been copied." The board chair didn't speak for a full minute. Then she closed the dossier, folded her hands, and said, "Leave us, Miss Vale." Clara looked at the CEO, waiting for rescue. It didn't come. She walked out like someone had cut the strings holding her up. The board turned to me. Not with warmth, not yet, but with the kind of measured calculation reserved for people you can't afford to underestimate. The CEO mumbled about oversight and due diligence failures. I stayed quiet. I wasn't here to gloat. I was here to end this cleanly. HR called her within the hour. Termination for cause. No severance. The conference pulled her talk from their archives. By the next morning, her LinkedIn was gone. I didn't see her pack up. She was escorted out before I arrived. The CEO avoided me all day, then sent a curt email about restructuring next quarter. My department stayed intact. My projects returned to my name. But the damage she'd tried to do, that would take longer to repair. I didn't rush it. Some reputations are rebuilt in whispers, the same way they're destroyed. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a journalist I'd quietly tipped off months ago. She'd run the story. Names, dates, documents, all public now. Clara's probation violation meant she might be facing charges. I didn't confirm or deny anything on record. I didn't need to. The truth was already walking on its own legs. The CEO called me into his office. No apology, just a promotion to reflect my long-standing contributions. I took it, not because I wanted validation from him, but because the title gave me more leverage for what came next. Quietly, I began reshaping the department's hiring process, making credential verification mandatory for every role. Nobody argued. Months later, I saw Clara at a cafe. She didn't see me. She was thinner, hair scraped back, wearing no makeup. She spoke in hushed tones to a man in a cheap suit, sliding her resume across the table. I didn't look away. I wanted her to feel it, the weight of being watched, the knowledge that her lies had burned too many bridges. The CEO left 6 months after the scandal, citing health reasons. The board replaced him with someone meticulous to the point of paranoia. My work flourished under the new regime. They called me indispensable now. I never once mentioned Clara's name. People think revenge is about the moment you win. It's not. It's about the months you spend invisible, the quiet hours gathering proof, the discipline to let your enemy dig their own grave. Clara gave me everything I needed. All I did was make sure the right people were watching when she fell in.